The air in the sanctum of whispers tasted of ozone and decay. Elias Thorne knelt in the dust, his gloved fingers tracing the grooves of a massive bas-relief. The carving depicted a pantheon of slender, multi-limbed beings crowned with crystalline spires, gods who had built this world and then abandoned it. "They're not coming back," he murmured, the words swallowed by the cavern's oppressive silence. Behind him, his team moved like ghosts, their suits humming with recycled air. The mission was simple: retrieve a relic from the inner sanctum and get out. But the relic was never the prize. The prize was understanding. And understanding, in this place, was a death sentence. A low thrum vibrated through the floor, deep and resonant, like a sleeping giant's heartbeat. Elias froze. The air grew thick, heavy with the scent of ozone and something metallic, like blood on rust. The bas-relief's eyes, once carved stone, now glowed with a faint, malevolent light. "Status report," Elias whispered into his comms. Static answered. He looked back. His team was gone, vanished. Only their footprints remained in the dust, leading deeper into the temple. Kaylin sprinted through the labyrinthine corridors, her breath ragged in her helmet. The walls pulsed with a sickly green light, veins throbbing beneath the stone like arteries. She had to find Elias. The mission was already a disaster. The biomechanical entities, she called them the architects, had awoken, and they were hunting. Ahead, a corridor split into 3 paths. No markings, no clues. Just the oppressive silence broken by the distant hum of pursuit. She closed her eyes, listening. Left, the hum was louder. Right, it was fainter. Ahead, silence. Too perfect. She chose right. The architects didn't think like humans. They didn't believe in shortcuts. Her boots crunched on shattered glass as she rounded the corner. The corridor ended in a chamber filled with statues. Dozens of them, all frozen in poses of supplication or terror. Their faces were blank, their bodies frozen in mid-motion. "Hello," Kaylin called, her voice trembling. The statues didn't move, but their eyes, once glassy and inert, now reflected her own terrified face. One by one, they turned their heads. The sound of stone grinding on stone filled the chamber. Elias backed into an alcove, his pulse hammering in his ears. The architects were close. He could feel their presence, a cold weight pressing down on his mind. They weren't just machines. They were something older, something that had witnessed the birth and death of stars. And they were angry. The relic he'd taken, a smooth, obsidian sphere, glowed in his hand, its surface shifting like liquid shadow. It pulsed in time with the temple's heartbeat. "You want this?" Elias shouted into the darkness. "Come and get it." The air ahead shimmered. A figure coalesced from the green light, tall, slender, and impossibly graceful, its limbs folding and unfolding like origami. Its face was a smooth plane of polished chrome, no eyes, no mouth. Just silence. Elias raised the relic. "You left," he said, his voice steady despite the fear. "You abandoned your creation. You don't get to come back." The architect tilted its head, a gesture that was both curious and terrifying. The sphere in Elias's hand grew hotter, brighter. The temple groaned. Kaylin ran, the statue's whispers chasing her. They weren't speaking in words, but in feelings, fear, despair, the weight of eons. She clutched her rifle, though she knew it was useless against stone. The architects didn't bleed. They didn't die. They reset. And she was a variable in their equation. Ahead, the corridor opened into a vast chamber. A throne of obsidian and bone sat at its center, and on it sat a figure even taller than the others. Its crown was a nest of crystalline spires, and its hands rested on its knees, fingers like spiders. The first architect, the one the others obeyed. Kaylin stopped. The first architect turned its head, its chrome face catching the green light. It didn't speak, but it showed her. Visions flooded her mind, cities of light burning, oceans boiling, stars going dark. The architects weren't gods. They were janitors, cleaning the universe of messy, chaotic life. And humanity was next. The sphere in Elias's hand pulsed, and the first architect's attention shifted. It had found him. Elias clutched the sphere as the architect advanced. The air crackled with energy, the stone floor beneath his feet cracking like dry earth. "You think you're in control?" Elias spat. The sphere responded, its light flaring. The architect stopped, its limbs folding into a defensive posture. It didn't understand defiance. It didn't understand anger. Humans did. Elias grinned, a feral, desperate thing. You left because you were afraid, he said, taking a step forward. Afraid of what you'd become. Afraid of what you'd create. The sphere pulsed again, and the temple shook. The architect's chrome face flickered, a brief distortion in its perfect surface. The truth hit Elias like a physical blow. The architects weren't gods. They were prisoners, trapped in their own perfection, unable to change, unable to grow. And they feared the one thing they couldn't control: chaos. Humanity. Elias raised the sphere. Let's dance, he whispered. Kalen watched the first architect rise from its throne. Its movements were slow, deliberate, each step shaking the chamber. It didn't see her as a threat. It saw her as an anomaly, a mistake to be corrected. She raised her rifle, not to shoot, but to aim at the crystalline spires on its crown. I know what you are, she said, her voice echoing in the chamber. You're not gods. You're scared. The first architect paused, its head tilting. Kalen pulled the trigger. The bullet ricocheted off the crystal, shattering it into 1,000 pieces. The first architect screamed, not with sound, but with pure, unfiltered rage. The temple groaned. The walls pulsed. The architects were awakening. Elias danced with the architect, the sphere in his hand a beacon of defiance. The biomechanical entity moved with impossible grace, its limbs folding and unfolding in ways that defied physics. But Elias was faster, more chaotic. He ducked under a sweeping arm, rolled across the floor, and slammed the sphere into the architect's chest. The impact didn't harm it, but it stunned it. For a fraction of a second, the perfect machine faltered. Its limbs froze. Its chrome face flickered, showing glimpses of something beneath, something organic, something alive. Elias saw it. The architects weren't just machines. They were wearing something they had stolen. The sphere pulsed again, and the architect's eyes, once dark mirrors, flashed with recognition. It wasn't looking at Elias. It was looking through him, at whatever was behind him. The air grew cold. The shadows deepened. And from the darkness, a new shape emerged. Kalen fired again and again at the first architect, each bullet shattering another crystal spire. The entity roared, its voice not in her ears, but in her mind. Asterisk, you are chaos. You are error. Asterisk, Kalen gritted her teeth. We're not error, she shouted. We're improvement. The last crystal shattered. The first architect stumbled, its perfect balance broken. For the first time, Kalen saw fear in its movements. It had relied on its crown, its symbol of authority, and she had destroyed it. The other architects froze, their attention split between Elias and the first architect. The temple was coming alive. Stone flowed like water. Light pulsed in rhythm with the sphere in Elias's hand. Elias turned as the new shape resolved from the shadows. It was smaller than the others, more organic, its limbs ending in delicate, multi-jointed fingers. Its face was a mosaic of shifting plates, like a beetle's carapace. But its eyes were human. Or at least, they had been. They were empty now. Hollow. The stolen ones, Elias whispered. The sphere pulsed, and the stolen one flinched. It remembered. It remembered being human. The architects had harvested minds, souls, to fuel their immortality. And now, they were paying the price. The stolen one reached out, its fingers trembling. It didn't touch Elias. It touched the sphere. And in that touch, Elias understood. The relic wasn't a weapon. It was a key. Kalen and Elias stood back to back as the temple erupted around them. The architects advanced, their movements no longer graceful, but jerky, desperate. The stolen ones swarmed them, their hollow eyes reflecting the green light. They're falling apart, Elias said, the sphere in his hand glowing brighter than ever. Kalen nodded, her rifle empty. So are we. The first architect loomed over them, its crown gone, its face a mask of rage and fear. It raised a hand, and the stone beneath their feet erupted. But the sphere pulsed, and the stone froze midair. The stolen ones screamed, their voices merging into a single, agonized wail. The architects were losing control. The temple was rejecting them. Elias smiled. You left because you feared chaos, he said, raising the sphere. But chaos is life. He slammed it into the ground. The light consumed everything.